I'm Chris Lieben. You're on Your MMA Radio.
The stuff that Nick Diaz says is crazy, okay? If you were at that press conference, he also said he didn't go to school to buy houses.
His manager, Ed Soares, is already making excuses for Anderson to not take that fight. So, yeah, I think they're going to try to weasel out of it.
You got to find something to take up your time, and I found MMA. I had one fight and I fell in love with it, you know. And this is what I do. I can't see myself doing anything else, you know. I don't want to go back to work.
Courage here for now, the Gladiators 4, along with Dangerous Dave. Left he is asleep! He is asleep! Too late for introductions, man!
Coming up now, UC MMA promoter Dave O'Donnell joins us ahead of another event this weekend. We started by asking Dave to reflect on last year's events, and the long-term promoter is just happy to be continuing on the road to progress.
Just like anything, when you actually make it, it's easy, but the long road is staying on the big ladder and not falling off. So, you know, we've done well not to fall off. We're keeping our goals, you know, achievable. I think a lot of newcomers and people who think they're going to jump straight from the ground straight to the top. I've been there. You can't do it unless you're going to spend lots and lots of millions. And we done it the first time in Cage Rage. You know, we were 2 million in the can. It's not easy unless you've got really deep pockets. So, you know, we've kept UCMA. We're now UCMA 26, and we've kept it achievable. You know, we're on Sky every week. We've got a TV show every week. So we've kept everything achievable. And looking back at 2011, it was a great year. It really was a good year. So I'm still breathing. And fighters keep going to UFC, which is great. Yeah, for me, if the fighters can do well, then every time someone says, "Oh, but ain't you worried?" that they go, when everyone goes, another new one comes up the clank. So, you know, I'm really happy that the guys are doing well.
So on that basis of the guys leaving to the UFC, obviously there was a situation with Shea Mills back when he was still with Bama, and they initially were looking to hold on to him. I know obviously you've released daily for this card, which we'll talk about. But are you keeping with a policy that even if you had a guy under, say, a 3 or 4 fight contract, would you let them go, or would that be a different story if you had him on a long term?
It's happened before, even in Cage Rage. You know, I had guys under contracts, like John Hathaway, you know, and I got what do you think we can do? You know, and to me, it's a call. Sometimes it will happen, sometimes it won't happen. But if they get it, I've got to be good enough to go, you know what, I'll sign them off, and away they go. There's always someone to fill their shoes. Even for the likes of Paul Daly, you know, it's just to turn it around, it was them that was letting me, you know, he's under contract to Strikeforce, not the other way around. They were good enough to give them to me.
Right.
You know, and then all of a sudden, they needed him back. It's one of them things, and the guys with the bigger bucks will always achieve that, or some sort of loyalty. To me, I'm just a loyal guy anyway, so I just look at the guys that fought me a few years, that if opportunity comes their way, let them take it with both hands, because you never know when it come round again.
Sure.
But there's not many promoters like me, Dave. You must know that anyway.
No, it's a cutthroat business. No, it's a good stance to take, I think. And to be honest, I think most shows, I think that was why it was a bit of a shock over the Shea Mills thing, although it was quite a short solution, because obviously the UFC got him anyway. But I guess it's heartening for guys to know that even if they do sign a contract with you, if you know, the Americans do come knocking, then they're not going to have any problems. Yeah,
I just think it's one of them. It doesn't matter what change on your card. If you're a promoter, you can save your card. If you're riding on one fight for a promotion, you're a silly man anyway. You know, if you're riding on one big fight, one big name, like Nate Marquette or whatever, you're silly, because your promotion can't last on one name. The UFC, you can put me and you as top of the bill, and it would still sell out. It's the brand that has made it. And when people rise and see that, they go, "Oh, I didn't realise that," because it happens over here. You know, when they put the cards on over here, they've got the best cards in the world, yet there are 22,000 people there.
Yeah.
20,000 people. It's the brand that sells, not the fighters. The fighters will sell our smaller shows because they're selling tickets. They're the local name. But at a certain level, it can't be the fighters anymore. It's the brand. And people should know that anyway. I'm not teaching this again, they should know that. But there you go, some people don't.
And definitely, Dave. I mean, looking at it, you talked about new fighters coming in as old fighters leave. One of the new fighters that you had a great amount of success with over the last couple of shows is Corey Tate, who's on this show. I mean, what are your thoughts on Corey Tate as a fighter? There's a lot of people talking about just how exciting and how dynamic he is.
Well, I think if you give the chance, just like all these guys, if you give a chance for these guys to shine, give them the kind of right fights, give them the TV exposure, and actually promote the guy as well. Every fighter that comes on our show, they get articles. They're really written about, and they get on TV, they get on Cage Fight, they can sit down and express themselves. Their gym does well. Everybody seems to benefit, and I just think there's a lot of fighters out there. There's so many, like Ben Callum, all these different guys coming through, Luke Barnett. They're great fighters, and once they get the exposure on our show, they'll become fantastic fighters and then superstars. I keep my fingers crossed that that's exactly what will happen. But Corey Tate, he's just an exciting guy. As you say, you've been there, Ben, you've watched him cage side. He always brings excitement. You never know what's going to happen next. And I can't wait for this Saturday because something's going to happen.
Definitely, and a very unorthodox fighter. I think that's what, I mean, me from a commentator looking at Ultimate Challenge, I'm always excited to see what Corey Tate's going to do next. I mean, I thought he couldn't top that big crescent kick KO, and then he comes out and throws a spinning back fist into a right hook and head kicks and guillotines. It's unreal to watch somebody like that, and a real talent, and a good clash of styles for him, taking on Spencer Hewitt this time, who was obviously a BJJ brown belt and a really strong grappler.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but after he's fought Nathan Bear, what is tough? If he got through Nathan Bear, everything else, I'll say a walk in the park, but he's been with one of the toughest guys out there at the moment. So anything else is just a different kettle of fish. But it's not so much him training for Spencer, it's Spencer training for Corey. And that's the difference. All these guys, they can be trained for a lot of the time, but to train like Corey, that's a whole new bag of tricks. So I'd always put the ball in the other person's court. They've got the hard fight, not so much as Corey.
Sure. I mean, you mentioned the Barnett and Ben Callum fight there. They're two young up-and-comers as well. I mean, I think you've mentioned before you got a lot of respect for those two for taking that fight, because that is a really good fight, despite only having short professional records. Those that have been around the domestic scene, these guys have really been about. Ben Callum's got wins at heavyweight, so...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And they're not just, just like Corey, he's been a martial artist since the age of 6. People look at it, I've only been in the game a couple of years. They've been doing martial arts all their life. Same as Ben Callum's been boxing since forever. Same as Luke Barnett. They've got big martial arts background behind them. They haven't just jumped in after a year. These are well-seasoned guys. They're not people going, I should have kept them apart. It could have been a bigger fight later on. But then all of a sudden you're just padding out records. You're becoming like the boxing world. I want good fights now. And both of them guys, I've spoken to them both, they're not going to get dropped if they lose. They've both done really well. One of them's got to lose, but of course they'll be back on it. I'm not going to go, that's it. And people must believe that from me with Jake Bostwick. I think he lost 5 fights on a spin with me, Jake. And I said to him, look, Jake, you always bring it. A fighter like you, I will never get rid of because your time will come. In fact, exactly what I said to Alex Reed all the years ago. Why did I keep booking him when he had like 7 losses? Because he's that kind of guy. He will always bring something explosive will happen with Alex Reed. Maybe the best, but it'll happen. And they're the kind of guys I book. I don't just book winners, it's fighters I look for and entertainers. And that's why Ultimate Challenge, I think, is a good success. And a lot of people are buying tickets. April, I think we've done nearly 1,000 tickets for April,
really?
The next card.
Wow.
And people didn't even know who was on the card. But they know I'm not going to cheat them. I'm not going to just give them rubbish. They're going to get a good night out. It's like a guarantee. So sit and approval. If you come down to the top seat, you're going to get a good night of fight action.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you talked about the arena shows briefly earlier on, and I just wondered what your view was. Obviously, with the UFC coming over, that the world of MMA's got bigger in this country, obviously. But why do you feel that? Perhaps in the cage rage days it worked now, and you look at the picture now, and I know you've openly said that anybody that's doing an arena show these days is almost crazy. Why do you think it worked in the cage rage days and not now? Do you think the sport has perhaps peaked, or was that just sort of the right time, right place?
No, we spent a lot of money doing it. People look at an arena show and go, I know, I'll book an arena show. They don't think, I think the most we've spent on advertising, forget anything else, just advertised on TV, billboard. But you've got to remember, we had posts on buses, phone boxes, petrol garages, pubs, banners out, the great big signs, radio, we teamed up with KISS